Welcome to The Explainer. For centuries, people have been trying to figure out who one specific biblical figure really is, the false prophet. Well, today, we're diving into a source that claims it's cracked the code. And its answer? Well, it points to someone you'll definitely recognize on the world stage right now. Let's see how they build their case. So, let's start with the big question, the one that scholars have debated for ages. Who is the biblical false prophet? This character shows up in the book of Revelation and is a huge player in end times prophecy. But while it's always been speculation, the source we're digging into today, it gives a very, very specific answer. All right, so the source material we're looking at isn't really into guessing games. It cuts right to the chase and makes a pretty bold accusation. And there it is. The central claim from our source is that the false prophet isn't just one person, but the actual office of the Roman Catholic Pope. That is a huge claim, and that's the argument we're going to unpack today. So, what's the logic here, at least to start? Well, the source argues that the false prophet would be the head of a church that, over time, started putting its own doctrines and traditions ahead of the original scripture. The whole idea is that followers are being led by church rules rather than the text itself. Now, an argument this big needs a foundation, right? So to build its case, the source text zooms in on one specific passage from the Bible. Let's take a look at the scriptural bedrock for this whole theory. Okay, so this verse from Revelation sets the scene. We've got this trio of figures, the dragon, the beast, and, guessed it, the false prophet. And according to the scripture, these three unleash these foul spirits that go on to have a massive impact on world events. And here's the crucial part. These spirits aren't just causing random chaos. Nope, they have a mission. Their job is to perform signs and miracles to gather all the world's leaders for a gigantic war, a war that's supposed to happen at a very specific place. So what on earth is Megiddo? Well, the source makes it really clear this isn't some fantasy land. Megiddo is a real historical place in Israel. It's an ancient city that's seen a ton of battles over the centuries, and you probably know it by its more famous name, Armageddon. Okay, so we've got an ancient prophecy about three big players gathering the world for a war at a real-life location. But how does the source connect any of that to what's happening today? Well, this is where things get really interesting and really specific. And here you have it. The source literally creates a lineup, mapping those biblical figures directly onto modern world leaders. It says the dragon is Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, the false prophet is Pope Francis, and the beast represents the Israeli leadership, specifically Perez and Netanyahu. So, why them? What's the justification? The source argues that these three specific individuals have held the reins, politically speaking, on the direction of the three major Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in our recent history. Now for the final piece of the puzzle. We're going to leave the world of politics for a minute and jump into linguistics, because the source claims to find another clue hidden in plain sight, right inside the Pope's birth name. So check this out. The source takes the name Bergoglio and breaks it down using what it says are Hebrew components. It claims Bar means son, Gog refers to the biblical figure Gog, and Leo means something like Mia. And with that little bit of linguistic analysis, the source says, see, there's a direct link. It connects Pope Francis's family name to the apocalyptic figure of Gog and presents this as another layer of proof for its whole theory. So let's just do a quick recap of the argument we've been explaining. The main claim? The papacy is the false prophet. This idea is built on a specific passage in Revelation, which is then tied to a trinity of modern political leaders, and it's all capped off with what the source calls linguistic proof from the Pope's name. Look, this interpretation is just one of many out there. It's a very modern attempt to solve an ancient mystery, but it brings up a really fascinating question, doesn't it? Are these prophecies timeless warnings? Or are they more like a blank canvas where we project our own modern fears and conflicts? What we choose to see in these old texts, it might just tell us more about ourselves than it does about the future.